Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Chair, for being with us and for the good work that you do. I want to reserve the bulk of my time to talk a little bit about insider trading, but want to weigh in on this active debate we have on the question of a unitary fiduciary standard. I would hope that most of us would want that the nature of that fiduciary standard to prevent people from paying money for products that are sold in which the intent in selling those is more about making money than it is providing the best product. But setting aside the substance, and I understand that you are statutorily constrained by a system that was set up a long time ago when people had pensions that were managed by other people. Of course, today we live in a world where more and more people are running their own IRAs and their own 401ks. So my hope would be, and this is really a comment, not a question, my hope would be, sensing as I do that the average retail investor doesn't really know the difference between an investment advisor and a broker, or really note all that much difference between their IRA and their regular brokerage account, that you would help us think through how we could go to a place that just feels like a smart place to be, which is a fiduciary standard, and not have the need for retail investors to need to think that in this account, this is what my broker can do, but in this account, this is what my advisor can do. That just strikes me as complexity that we ought to statutorily do away with, and I suspect it is statutory. With respect to insider trading, Congressman Lynch and I have been working on efforts to address, obviously, the problem that arose as a result of the Second Circuit's Newman decision. As you know, the SEC and DOJ have been forced to operate in an environment where there is no explicit statutory prohibition on insider trading, leading to a body of common law that has, I think, created some odd characteristics in how one might go after insider traders. Mr. Lynch has submitted a bill. I've got one that is similar intent but slightly different in its mechanics. But I think this is important to get right. It's important to me because, unfortunately, my congressional district has been disproportionately a source of bad actors and alleged bad actors in this area. I'm a day or two, I think, from dropping some legislation that I hope you'll take a look at. But you made a comment around a similar Senate bill, and your comment was that it's critically important to investors in our markets that we have strong insider trading laws. One question I'd ask you, and then I've got a slightly more technical question, is would it be optimal if the goal here is to be very clear about prohibitions on insider trading and fairly streamlined process to actually prosecute inside traders? Should we, in fact, pursue an explicit statutory prohibition, or do you think that you can muddle by, as you have under common law and the 33 Act anti-fraud provisions?
I mean, I think obviously from 10b-5 and then the common law is where we have our laws on insider trading, and I think it's a strong body of law. Obviously, we have the Newman decision that's there. I think it's challenging to codify. I mean, the Commission has also considered over its history whether it should actually, write a rule as to, the parameters. So I think it's challenging. I mean, the bottom line, which I think you were quoting from me on, is I think it's very important to have very strong insider trading laws. Now, what we're doing, as you mentioned, we filed an amicus brief in the Second Circuit. We're continuing to bring insider trading cases, including in the Second Circuit, but clearly other circuits do not subscribe to what I think is the overly narrow view of the law that in some aspects the Second Circuit has held. And so I think what we're really we're proceeding with cases in the insider trading space. Enormously important to do that, and we're seeing what that ruling is in the Second Circuit. I think in terms of statutes to define it, I think that I think it's challenging to do it, but at the end of the day, what I'm for is the strongest insider trading law that we can have.
But presumably, if it can be defined in rules, as it is today, and in common law, it can be defined in statute. And presumably also, if we're talking about sending people to jail for long periods of time, it's probably better that we do that than administratively or regulatorily we do that, no?
I mean, that's certainly an argument for doing that. As I say, I think devil's in the details maybe is not quite the right expression to apply to this, but I think it is challenging to codify it clearly in a way that is both not too broad and retains the strength of the common law. But I'd be happy to work, and have a staff provide technical assistance on that, because it's enormously important to us as well, obviously the SEC.
Thank you. I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to have to take your answer to this on the record. But this is not a legal question. This is really a question that gets to the heart of the Second Circuit's Newman decision, which is, I'm struggling to understand why the point that that case hinged on, which is whether a tippee has knowledge of a personal gain on the part of a tipper, whether that should in any way, shape, or form be relevant. I understand under current common law it is, but whether it should, as a matter of right or wrong, determine whether that tippee would be liable. And I'm out of time, so we'll pursue that subsequently. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.